Hello, everybody. This is Shelby Shadwell. I hope you can all hear me at this point. Everybody's muted at the beginning of the call here, but thank you for joining us for sure. We'll wait a few minutes here for some more folks to join the call, but it looks like we've got already a good showing. So thank you for joining us again. Going to wait for Ken to jump on, but we also have Manda Still, our statewide field organizer, on here, and I'm going to unmute Manda so that she can maybe introduce herself and say a couple words.
Hi, everybody, and it's actually themself at the moment because I am a non-binary person, so I don't really go, I don't use she, her pronouns, just so everybody's aware. I don't really have much to say other than I hope you all got my email. If you're a volunteer or circulator and you didn't see the email, I sent it out to county team leaders, so you can ask anybody who's in charge of your county if you want to know the specific numbers of where we're at in terms of signatures. We're at 18.5% of the whole 50,000 goal that we need for signatures. So we have 9,273 currently across the state that are valid, counted. We know we have a lot more than that in terms of what has been signed on petitions, and we're still waiting for our incredibly hardworking data managers to get all that stuff into us. So I suppose that's all I have to say at the moment. I'm happy to be here on the call and hear from you all as well.
Thank you, Amanda, for sure. That's definitely a very helpful update as far as our numbers across the state, because I know everybody's curious about that, and I know we'll touch on that as we move forward. A couple of notes as we wait for folks to join, including Ken Chestek. I did want to say thank you for joining us. We didn't realize when we first scheduled the call that this would interfere with the State of the Union address, and I'm pretty sure most folks will be able to find that after the fact. If you're looking for it online or wherever, you'll see sound bites and things like that. So thanks for skipping that for this particular conference call. In addition, we hope to record this call so that folks that couldn't make it will be able to join in or at least hear what we had to say for the call. The other thing I want to say, anytime you want to speak or have a question or any kind of concern, feel free to press 1 or really any number on your dial pad, and we will be able to see that on our end, and we will address your question or concern as we move forward. So again, a couple of things is we're still waiting for a couple of folks to join, and it's a good showing, so thanks for joining us. Press 1 on your dial pad if you want to chime in on any part of the conversation. And thanks for joining us, even though this conflicts with the State of the Union address. We greatly appreciate everybody being on the call tonight for that reason. We've got a good showing from everybody here. And with that being said, I'm going to unmute Ken Chestek, the chair of Wyoming Promise, to say a few words and give us some leadership for this particular call. So Ken, you are unmuted, so feel free to introduce folks. We've got a good showing, so take it away.
Okay, thanks everybody, and thanks. And I'm sorry that I'm late to the call. The phone number that I got from my first registration took me to some survey site. It was a wrong number, so I had to re-register for the call just now and get a different call-in number. So here I am, Shelby. I do not have the link either for the conductor screen, so you're the only one who sees who's on the call right now. So I'm going to count on you to mute and unmute people as we go through the call, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, will do, Ken. So I'm keeping an eye on that, and I will make sure to mute and unmute folks as necessary. So if you have a question or concern, again, just press any number on your dial pad, and that should show up for me, and I'll unmute you so you can speak.
Okay, good. And thank you, everybody, for being on the call here. I can't see who's here, but Shelby says it's a good turnout, so I appreciate that. I appreciate those of you who are foregoing the State of the Union address. I'm taping it, and I'll decide later if I want to watch it. But thank you all for being here. We did not plan this to conflict with the State of the Union. It was one of those things that every other night this week I had something going on, and Shelby had something going on, and we just had no other night that we could do this, and we didn't even think about the State of the Union when we scheduled the call. So what I wanted to do, I did send around the agenda for everybody to take a look at. I'll try and stick to it. We have a guest speaker later on. Chris Corfanto is going to give us some information about some great work she's been doing up in Sheridan, contacting state legislators, and that's a strategy that we're going to be deploying earlier this year. So let me just kind of give you a quick update. I think some of you or most of you have received Manda's latest numbers as of today, where we are statewide. Overall, the numbers that we're showing you are the goal, progress towards goal. If we measured progress towards the minimum, the percentages are a lot higher, but we know that we need to go beyond the minimum and reach our goals in all these counties. If we reach goals in 16 counties, we're confident we'll be there. So we have really good results going on, and we have a new leader in the clubhouse trying to get to the goal first, and that's Johnson County has overtaken Albany County. So everybody, I don't know if we have anybody on the call from Buffalo or Johnson County, but great job up there in Buffalo. You guys are at 68, almost 69% of your goal. Albany is 66%, right on your heels. So those two counties are leading the way. We have a couple other counties that are getting close to halfway there. Sublette and Fremont are approaching the halfway mark, and a number of other counties, Bighorn, Sweetwater, Sheridan, doing great job, great work there. So we've got some great numbers coming in. Obviously, we have a long way to go, but this is good news. We have made significant strides in a number of counties. We need to have a few more counties step up and get going, and we do have a new county. Campbell County is now on board. So Chris, I don't know if Christy's on the call or not, but we do have a new team just getting started in Campbell County, Gillette. That's fantastic. It's a major county. We need to get a lot of folks there. So it's very heartening to see people stepping up in Gillette. And Christy and I are working on putting together some public events to get started in March. And hopefully we'll work that out pretty quickly and have a big public event up there and get some publicity started and get the word out. So things are happening. The momentum is building, and I am still pretty optimistic that we are going to be able to accomplish our goal. We're not yet halfway through the 18 months that we have to do this. When we started this project last May, we had 18 months from last May to get all of our numbers in, and we're not halfway through that yet. But we spent a good part of that time building our teams and building our capacity. And now that we're rolling, I think the numbers are going to come in a lot faster, and I'm very confident that we will be able to be successful here. So with that said, as I said, we have a team going in Campbell now. What we've been doing most of the last few months has been working on informational activities. There's not a lot of canvassing and signature gathering going on in the bad weather months, obviously, although we did have, I think, fantastic success around the state at the women's marches. I know my wife and I were in Cheyenne. I know there's a big march up in Casper. I know there's one in Cody. I think there was one in Pinedale. They were all over the place. And we saw some numbers jump after that because it was a great opportunity to gather signatures. And I know that we have some of the Cody numbers haven't been entered yet, so we'll be entering those very soon. So I'm sure we're going to be the numbers will continue to grow as we add those. But what we've been doing has been working on letters to the editor and working on op-ed pieces and other kinds of forms of publicity. One big one was last weekend when the Wyoming Chronicles show on Wyoming PBS aired a half-hour show featuring Wyoming Promise. I hope you all had a chance to see it. If you didn't, there is it's on Facebook now. There's a link. And Shelby, have we gotten the link yet up on our website?
Not on the website yet, but I did send it out in the most recent email, just as a reminder for this conference call in particular. So we will have that on our website, and we hope that folks share that very much with friends and family. If you email the link and just let folks know, let your neighbors know. It was a good showing. We've got a lot of good feedback from it, and actually some folks we wouldn't have expected have sent in checks and donated on the website based on that. One thing I do also want to say, Ken, is I just sent you resent the conductor link for the conference call. So if you want to check on that, and I can say just a couple of things really quick while you do that, is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so Ken is going to check on the conductor link so he knows who's on the call. I think that's a good idea because we'd like to maybe after Chris speaks about contacting legislators, just if everybody wants to check in and introduce themselves to other folks on the call, that would be great. I just noticed Christy Garrett's from Campbell County just jumped on the call, so that'll be great to hear from her on this effort. But while Ken is hooking up with the conductor link for this call so he can see who's on the call as well, I do want to reiterate a couple of things. One is data wranglers. We do want to get data in from all over the state, especially those counties that haven't been putting it in. Amanda, of course, will give us an update on the numbers, and Ken, who has given us a feel for that too. Our numbers are higher than that, and the only reason they're not higher when we talk to you is because we don't have all the data that we need. So if you can get those numbers in to us as soon as possible, or get a data manager or a data wrangler, on the go in your county, that would be amazing. Also, please feel free to contact myself, Shelby Shadwell, or Amanda Still, our state field organizer, if you need any more materials. Petitions, brochures, things like that, T-shirts, buttons, anything on that. Don't forget to send any info you have in your county on circulators. If I don't know, or Ken doesn't know, or Amanda doesn't know who they are, we can't get them on the approved circulator sheet, which does need to be notarized just like petitions do. And if we get a packet that has a circulator that isn't approved by us here at the state level, it may not be counted. So make sure you send me names and email addresses and also street addresses of those folks so we can get them to the Secretary of State as we move forward. The other thing is, go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, I just had a couple more things, and then I'll let you jump back on. Don't forget also in your counties, if you do have a small business, a local business, that business owner that wants to circulate a petition, send that info my way as well as their street address and email address. And that way on our Where to Sign tab on our website, we can get that up so folks that are new to the effort or new to the issue can find that info and find a local business and just go there and sign the petition. It takes a lot of work off you as county team leaders and volunteers and everything. So that's pretty much all I had, Ken. I just wanted to give you time to get on the conductor link.
Okay, thanks. I do have that link up now, and I see who's on the call, which is always nice to know who I'm talking to. So just to kind of finish up on the steering committee update, three things. As I said, our efforts right now have been more educational and building support. One element of that has been the Charlie versus Goliath effort. That's for those of you who have not been on the call before. Charlie versus Goliath is a documentary. It's actually being shown tonight, or it already has been shown today, sometime in Mumbai, India. It's one of the, I think, 3 American documentaries that has been selected for a film festival in Mumbai. It's won awards. It's been fantastically received, and it has its Wyoming premiere in Cheyenne in December. It's the story of Charlie Hardy, who ran a grassroots campaign on a shoestring with small donations against Mike Enzi for the United States Senate in 2014. And it's a fascinating look at what a low-budget grassroots campaign looks like, how it works. Charlie has been a pioneer in trying to get money out of politics, and he and Reed Lindsay, the filmmaker, have been very supportive of Wyoming Promise and want to use the film to call attention to our efforts and actually make it as part of a fundraiser for us. We are working on getting a statewide tour together. I don't see anybody from Johnson County on the call, Buffalo. We're hoping to have the next showing of the film will be February 17th, I believe, up in Buffalo. And hopefully Charlie and I will both be able to be there. But if you are interested in having we're going to hope to have a bus tour and try and use Charlie's actual bus from when he did the bus tour of Wyoming on his campaign. We're trying to figure out how to get that same bus, rent it out for a month, and do another statewide tour, taking the movie around to different communities throughout Wyoming. If you are interested in having a showing of that movie in your community, send me an email. We're hoping to get a phone call put together, hoping next week with Reed on the call, so we can start planning out where the movie is going to be shown, put together a schedule. The idea is to start showing it maybe March, early April, because that's about the time when we plan to reignite the door-to-door efforts and the much more emphasis on canvassing. The weather will be better, and we'll be able to get out more and talk to folks. So we're going to use the Charlie versus Goliath film as kind of a publicity event to get things kicked off in your community. So please, if you want to have it in your town, send me an email. You can send it either to info@wyomingpromise.org or send it directly to me, kchestic@gmail.com. Either way, let us know, and we will get the call scheduled and invite you to a phone call where we're going to talk to Reed and talk about how to get this put together and shown in your communities. The other thing that we're working on right now is legislative outreach, and that's something that I'm going to have Chris speak to in just a second here. The first piece of that is we have actually rented a room at the Jonah Center where the legislature meets. On the morning of February 20th from 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning, we're going to have a room in the Jonah Center where we're going to have coffee and donuts or whatever and invite legislators who are going to be walking in the halls to come on in and talk with us and learn about our efforts. We have decided not to try and get on the legislative agenda for this session. It's a budget session. We need a 2/3 vote to get on, and almost nothing ever succeeds in getting on the agenda. So we don't like the optics of trying and failing. So what we're going to do is simply we're building support for a year from now, because one way or the other, a year from now, we will be back in the legislature asking them to adopt our measure. Whether we're on the ballot or not, we're going to still do it. I think we'll be on the ballot. But even if we're on the ballot, the legislature has to have an opportunity to say yay or nay, so we're going to start trying to build support for it. Shelby and I are going to be talking to Governor Meade Thursday of this week in a similar effort to try and get him to support what we're doing. So we're working on trying to get support from political leaders around the state to help us out with this project. And with that, I know that Chris Corfanta up in Sheridan and her team have done a fantastic job in talking to their state legislatures. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Chris and let Chris tell us a little bit about how they've done it and give some advice, because I think it's something that a lot of us should be trying to do. The more support we have from legislators, the more we can list on our website as being supporters of this effort, the easier it's going to be for us to gather signatures as well. So, Chris, I think, is Chris unmuted?
Hello?
Hi, Chris, we hear you. Yes, you're unmuted, so take it away.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and thanks for having me. I'll just kind of go through what we did, and I'm thinking, they are, our legislators are getting ready to go to Cheyenne. It might be kind of busy for them, but on the other hand, it's going to be an election year, so maybe they would be willing to meet with you before they go to the legislature. And also, I think all these tips, or this would be good for getting a hold of the candidates who are starting to put their names in the hat for running, so to not just outreach to the legislators, but also to potential candidates. Our goal last summer was to meet with all of them, and we ended up meeting with one last summer, and then we met with him again when we did the outreach to all of them. We sent out an invitation in early January of this year, and via email, and then sent a follow-up if we did not hear back, and then followed that up with a phone call. And so then at the actual meeting, we had it in a local coffee shop that was pretty quiet, and we met with one legislator at a time, although two came to one. And during our meeting, we basically were listeners first, asking about their concerns, what they heard about it, what was their ideas, etc. And we found a lot of common ground, even with one who called our, who was overheard, or, well, we went on social media calling us kind of, it's a liberal issue. And anyway, even that meeting with that legislator went really well. We had a lot of common ground. I know Kenneth sent out kind of my notes of what I was going to say at this meeting. So if you have it, I do have a few things to add. One of the ones who was thinking we were a liberal group, he quickly, admitted that it's really expensive to run a campaign. He was frustrated. The voters aren't educated on issue. That takes a lot of money, and so he had to get a lot of money from a wealthy donor. He didn't like being attacked over that, so we made sure to let him know that we weren't attacking him. We were bipartisan, cross-partisan, and we're concerned about the system. Anyway, it was really good. The one legislator that we met with had several friends who were kind of ousted in the last election by some dark money funded letters that so that person was very concerned and saw how it impacted people negatively. Let's see. We have another meeting with one tomorrow because he's been very busy, and then one of our senators has not met with us. He basically says he's going to respectfully agree to disagree. He thinks we're limiting speech. Other common ground is we all agreed on the need for civility and for the need to have different points of view, and that we need people coming together, no matter what their political bent, to talk about issues, and the need for voters to be engaged. And everybody hated the idea of negative campaigning, although that seemed to get a lot of attention. So anyway, there is a specific bill that's being heard that would be a nice way to outreach to your legislators. It's based on one that was introduced last year. It's HB 276, HB 276. Anyway, it's being reheard in First, it goes to the Legislative Management Council, and that's going to be February 10th. So they need to hear from you. The Management Council should hear from you before the 10th. In fact, sooner the better. I put a link on the handout that Kenneth set out. But anyway, we talked with our legislators about that too, and they all seem to agree for the need for transparency. They like the idea. This has to do with supporting the live streaming of committee meetings and recording and archiving interim meetings. So I'm going to just list the names of the members of the Management Council just in case you guys, these are any of your representatives or senators. So the senators are Eli Bebout, John Hastert, Drew Perkins, Ray Peterson, Chris Rothfuss, Michael Van Flattern. And then the representatives are Steve Harshman, Donald Burkhart Jr., Jim Byrd, Kathleen Conley, John Freeman, Mike Griar, and David Miller. So they decide whether it goes on to be heard. But so none of those were our legislators, but they were very interested in having that kind of transparency. I'm going to give you, if you could just write this down, if you're not familiar with the website, that it's really easy to follow the legislation and also find contact information about your legislator. It's wyoleg.gov. It's WYOLEG for legislature, .gov. It has a wealth of information. So I highly recommend that. Finally, we followed up with thank yous, a written thank you. It was wonderful to have their time. And then Kenneth sent out the handout that we have a sample letter. Now, I cannot take credit for this. We have a wonderful person on our team that's really good at writing letters and following up with phone calls. I just happen to be one of the people meeting with our legislators, and I need to give a shout out to Lois Peterson in Johnson County because we share a legislator in Johnson County. It's Mike Madden, and he is willing to go on the website, Wyoming Promise website. He's a wonderful supporter. I'm sure he would help sponsor a bill. And then one of ours, I'm not going to say the names of ours, but one of ours seems to be willing to be a sponsor of a bill similar to what we're calling for on our initiative. So I'd love to hear from the rest of you if you've reached out to your representatives or even some of your candidates. This is just one way of doing it, and I can't tell you how good it made us all feel because, like I said, one of those legislators, we were all kind of concerned. I know he was concerned about meeting with us and us with him, but lots of common ground, and we all feel like we can talk about issues even if we may not agree. Thanks. So if there's anybody else who has suggestions or responses to reaching out to their legislators or candidates, it'd be great to hear.
Thank you, Chris. And if you do have any questions, comments, or observations you'd like to make, please press 1 on your keypad and your hand will go up and we can call on you. I do want to point out that every legislature, all 90 of them, House and Senate, have recently received a letter from me on Wyoming Promise letterhead, and we sent them out about 2 weeks ago, basically introducing Wyoming Promise to the legislators, telling them who we are, what we're doing, and also suggesting that they may be hearing from their constituents very soon about our project and what we're doing. So it would be great if you could follow up with that and say, I'm from Wyoming, contact your legislator, I'm from Wyoming Promise, and do you support getting dark money out of politics, and do you support the Free and Fair Elections Initiative, and have a conversation with them trying to build support. we're in this for the long haul. We're trying to succeed here, and success takes many different forms. Getting it on the ballot is a success. Getting it approved by the voters in 2020 would be a success. But getting it through the legislature is another way of getting to the same goal. That would be a success as well. So we need to try all routes, and any contacts that you can have with your state legislature to try and persuade them to support our efforts, that would be fantastic. You can ask them if they would like to have their name on our website as listed as a supporter, and let's see what we can do. The only hand I see up is Shelby. Shelby, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on all of that. Exactly correct. I'm going to put all of this information, as much as I can, that Chris mentioned about that particular legislation, as well as contact information for your representatives within the state on our recap email. So don't delete it. Check it out, and so you don't necessarily have to take notes now. I'm taking notes, and we'll have that in the follow up, as well as any handouts we have as well. I do want to say there are a couple of candidates out there now that have thrown their hat into the ring, and both of them have talked about money and politics as almost their primary issue, and that's I think it's Gary Trauner and Rod Miller. I mean, and they are I don't know what their political affiliation is necessarily, but I've seen things about them.
Republican.
Politics.
Yeah.
What's that?
Gary's a Democrat and Rod's a Republican.
Rod's a Republican. So, yeah. So, again, it's a cross-partisan issue. 8 out of 10 Americans, and that includes Wyomingites, agree on this issue. So, if you like what folks are saying, a lot of folks throwing their hat into the ring are talking about this issue specifically. So, I did want to throw those things out. That was all.
Okay, thank you. And Margie Farias, your hand is up. Margie, what's your comment?
Hi, Ken. I was curious. I'd like to ask Chris if the legislator that she talked about who was against this idea on the grounds of it hampered free speech, I'm wondering if he was part of the Wyoming Liberty Group, like Cale Case is.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, I hear you, Chris.
I suspect so. A lot of the things I've read in press releases that he's given kind of jive with that group, and we're not going to give up on this guy. We're going to still bug him and have a conversation. He basically. I know I'm sort of after working on a different issue with him, and so I was in line this August, actually, where he was, and I happened to have my petition and asked him about it when he started conversation, and that's when he just kind of backed away and said, you're limiting free speech, and he basically left the restaurant, and then when we've reached out to him before, he said, well, I let Chris know where I stand on it, and we just need to respectfully agree to disagree. So that's the only interaction on that we had. But like I said, the stuff I've read on how he stands on a variety of things kind of comes out of that group.
Was that Bo Beitman?
No.
Oh.
No, not at all. It's one of our senators. You can guess.
Okay. All right. Are there any other comments or questions for Chris? All right. Seeing none, the only other thing I wanted to talk about, and we can get an update from Shelby on fundraising and then have some questions and discussion. Kind of wrapping up the conversation about outreach to legislatures, we're starting a list that we're going to put up on our website of public supporters. We're going to try and get Governor Meade on that list when we meet with him on Thursday. We already have Mike Sullivan on our list. We have, obviously, Al Simpson on the list. We have a few, I think Mike Madden's willing to be on the list. It's a growing list of people who are either current or former public officials who are behind our efforts. And the longer the list is, the better it's going to be for us. So if you can talk to your senators, talk to your representatives, see if they want to support us, and if they're willing to go on our list publicly, we need their explicit permission. We're not going to shame anybody or put anybody up there without their permission. Let's get that list started, and let's get a long list of people who are supporters of our efforts. Okay, I had on the list, Shelby, an update on fundraising. How are we doing on fundraising?
Yeah, I would say because of the Wyoming Chronicle airing on PBS and our efforts to share that, and we'll continue to share that on social media, we've gotten a bump. We just recently, it's not a giant bump, but it's been a nice bump. As we always say on these meetings, though, we are living hand to mouth. We don't get corporate donors for our effort because we're trying, obviously to limit those kinds of things. So anything can help. If you have a team in your county, again, just reiterate, if they can give $1, $3, $25, $28 for a 28th Amendment, that's always great. We're doing okay now, but in the long run, if we do get enough signatures and we get this on the ballot, we're still going to need funds to inform the public and get yard signs and things like that to make sure that people know to vote for it. When it gets on the ballot, if people don't check a box, it's a no vote. So we want to make sure that the whole state is informed, and that's going to take some funding when we do get on the ballot, and I'm very confident that we will. If you guys can keep up, if you do events in your counties, have a little donation jar. We were able to raise money at the Women's March in Cheyenne, and thank you to all those folks in Cheyenne, Melody Nielsen and Jane Robinette and Vanda and everybody that was out there helping to get those signatures and raise some money. But again, no dollar amount is too small. So keep that in mind. We're like a small campaign here in hand to mouth. So if anybody, just let people know if they can chip in anything. It's very helpful. I would definitely say that.
Okay, good. So now we have some opportunities for questions and answers. If you have a question, please press 1 to raise your hand. Before we get to that, I'm going to put I see we have Leslie Key and Brett Governanti on the call. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because I know you had an event. You had people out at the Women's March in Casper. I was hoping to go up there myself, but the weather got bad, so I went to Cheyenne instead. So I'd just love to hear a report from either Leslie or Brett. You're both unmuted. How things go at the Women's March, and how are things going generally up in Casper?
Go ahead, Brett.
Brett, are you? I see you're on the call. Have you muted yourself, Brett?
Hi, Ken. This is
I'm unmuted now.
Okay, go ahead.
Raised my hand so I could talk.
Yeah.
The event went well. We got a good amount of signatures. People were interested in the booth. We had it at the Lyric at the end of the Women's March. Well, the end of the Women's March was just the end of the March portion, and at the end of the March portion, we have a facility downtown called the Lyric, which is it's like a performing arts venue, and it's a wonderful place. The first Women's March last year, they allowed us to have their front foyer, and it was a great event last year, and it was also a great event this year. I have to say that it was beyond my expectations because it was snowing out, and it was not the greatest day to be outside, but we had a wonderful bunch of people, couple few hundred. I'm not sure what the exact number was, but it was really surprising to see Casper get out despite the weather to support that important cause. And we had many wonderful speakers. All women spoke at the event. It was, I think, 11 speakers or 12. There was an open mic, which can be a little bit dangerous at times, but it was really well done. Each speaker was really had a lot of important things to say about the women's issues. We had our booth kind of towards the front, just behind the seated area, and it was successful, I would say. I've got the signatures in our book here, and we've been having a little bit of trouble in Natrona with our volunteers not really wanting to participate, or participating somewhat and then kind of backing away. And I'm not sure what's causing that. However, Leslie and I are trying to reinvigorate the effort, and I think from doing that Women's March event, we got at least one new petitioner and a couple of people that were interested in helping out, and we have set a date for February 7th to have kind of our first meeting of 2018 to see if we can get back on the ground in the effort.
Okay, that sounds great. As I said, I would love to be there on the 7th, but I can't possibly make it because I have to teach at 8:00 a.m. on the 8th. But I would, if you don't mind, I'd love to listen in and phone in on Wednesday night and just say a few things, but also mostly just listen in and be a resource to help you out. So if you have an opportunity to link me in by speakerphone, I would love to be able to do that.
Sure. Thanks, Ken. Yeah, we could do that.
All right. Sounds good. Leslie, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I just say ditto to Brett. We did have a good response, a lot of signatures. I think we're at a point where we have kind of winnowed it down to what's working up here and some of the things that aren't. So on the 7th, we'll hopefully get a little bit more strategic, now that some of us have been out doing the neighborhood walks and figuring out when they say they're going to do something, they really do it. It's just been a kind of a team-building effort up here. So now that the weather is getting behind us, I think there'll be some new energy injected into it.
Excellent. Any way we can help, let us know.
We'll put you in on that phone call. You want good motivation.
Okay. I will be here at home, but I'll be able to talk on the phone and mostly listen. I just want to be able to listen in and help out any way I can help out. Okay. Margie Farias has your hand up. Margie, go ahead.
Hi. First I want to say to Brett and was it Leslie? I don't remember. That yes, it's tough keeping people engaged who are, my circulators have kind of dropped off. A lot of it, I think, is the weather, and they don't really want to be out there, and I can sympathize. But anyway, the same thing is happening here in Fremont County. But I feel as though this spring it'll pick up again. And I had a question about the Charlie versus Goliath. Is there? I know you said before that it was not going to be a free movie. How much do you think it's going to cost to, purchase that to show here in, say, Lander or Riverton?
That's a good question. I know that it was like a regular movie ticket when they like $10 when they showed it in Cheyenne, but it was shown at a regular movie theater, and a lot of these things are going to be shown at ordinary movie theaters. But some of them are going to be put on at community centers and elsewhere where I think the cost would be less. I don't know exactly. Reed Lindsay is the filmmaker. He owns the movie, and he needs to recover his costs for the movie. So I'm not sure. So the pricing is completely dependent on him, although I know that he does want to make sure it's well distributed. He's also applied for a grant. There's apparently some organization that helps distribute documentaries, so he's applied for a grant. And if he gets the grant, that might be able to defray the cost of the movie. The main purpose of the grant is to rent the bus. So we don't know for sure what the cost will be. I'm hoping it'll be less than $10, but it may be as much as a regular movie ticket.
Ken, if I can just chime in on that, I'll unmute Melody Nielsen from Cheyenne to see if she has anything to add to that, if that's okay, since she was organizing that. Melody, you're unmuted.
Okay. What happened with Charlie versus Goliath here was that he paid the $300. There was a $300 deposit on the Lincoln Theater. And so as soon as he paid the down deposit for $300. Then what happened is we sold tickets, and so much of that money was reimbursed to him to pay for the $300. And once that was done, then the extra money, 10% of it went to Wyoming Promise, and the rest of it went to the director, to Reed. Yeah. So he paid out of his own pocket to start with, and we just reimbursed him, and therefore paid for the theater, and then gave him the money except for 10% he donated to Wyoming Promise.
And I'll chime in on that. This is Shelby. I'll chime in on that. If anybody needs seed money to get that going, if Reed doesn't have the money to get that going, we will do it from Wyoming Promise. We have some funds due to generous donors like many of you. So let us know if you need that seed money, and we'll get it to you. You can get in touch with me specifically, Shelby Shadwell, as the treasurer of Wyoming Promise. If you need money to get something going, we'll make it happen. So I'll just chime in with that.
Okay, thank you.
May I say one thing?
Sure, go ahead, Melody.
I think that having Reed do the go-between with the theater, because he is the director, he usually has more pull on getting the theaters to work with him. That also helps. This is something sort of that maybe Reed can work with you guys on that will help more. He'll work with you in different ways, but that will be more up to what happens. Even Charlie will work,
Right.
So anyway, I just thought I would add a little bit. I know that Reed worked excellently with us in communications. He called, he talked. I gave him the money. I gave you guys the money. It was just more or less working with Reed. He'll work with you easily.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be meeting Reed face-to-face down in New Orleans on Friday. There's
great.
Yeah, there's Unrig the System Summit that's being put on by Wolfpack and a bunch of other groups, and I'm going down there to start networking with other activists in other states. There's a couple of states now asking us questions. How do you do this? Because you're ahead of us. So we're going to do some networking down there. But Reed's going to be down there too, and I'll have a chance to meet with him, and we can start working on that. Brett gave us a little comment on the side here saying that you think you've got a free venue up in Casper. That's fantastic. I think we're hoping to have several shows up in Casper, because I think in the bigger cities we might put on the show. Might do it 2 or 3 times just to make sure people have an opportunity to see the movie. A free venue would be good. We're trying to work on a free venue here in Laramie, the Griffin Theater. So if we have free venues, that could very likely reduce the price that we need to recover our costs, and that would be a fantastic thing. So we're working on that as well. Okay, I see Chris Corfanta has her hand up again. So Chris, you are unmuted. What's your comment or question?
I was thinking of some of the groups that are having a difficult time maybe keeping their canvassers together, team building. We've done a couple presentations at the library, PowerPoint presentations, and just opened it to the public and kind of shared in the presentation of that. And we have a presentation we're totally willing to share and some resources. Another idea I think that came up maybe on one of the American Promise meetings, which should be easy to maybe show at the library, to get just your local group to get together and, build some camaraderie, because I think that's a huge thing, is to have a team, a big enough team that you could share the struggles with. And they suggested to show the 60 Minutes documentary on the opioid epidemic and how the corporations are complicit in that. Should be an easy thing to, just invite everybody who's a canvasser, or, and just watch it together. And finally, I had a question about, it's good to hear that Reed would work with the theater. Partly why I haven't jumped in there saying Sheridan should do it too is, like, we're kind of spread thin, but if he's willing to work with the theater, that would be great. And then how did you guys advertise? Was it just getting the word out to get people to come? Who paid for that? How was it done? You guys in Cheyenne.
Melody,
again, and Melody, do you have how was it publicized in Cheyenne?
Poster, and we put those all over town, in businesses, in the library, everywhere. Then it was in the Traders newspaper. It was in the Tribune. So all papers got it. And then let's see what else. Oh, we did other things. We had functions, as I recall, where we publicized it. And then we went out and sold tickets. So every person who was getting signatures was also selling tickets. And so as we got signatures, we asked them if they were interested in going to Charlie versus Goliath. We also had little cards, flyers with Charlie versus Goliath on one side, and then Al Simpson on the other side. So they got the idea of what it was about and who was for it. And so as people signed and we educated, we gave them the flyer, we asked them if they'd like to buy a ticket. So it was just everyone got involved in any way they could. Does that help?
Great.
Is that... but the flyers were great.
Yeah, those flyers and other resources are available to share. When we made those up, we made sure that they were easily modifiable, so you could take out Cheyenne and put in your town name. So all those flyers are available to be used wherever you want to put this movie on. So. And it worked. We also had a Facebook event set up for it, and I don't know how many people use Facebook, but that seems to work pretty well. We got some from Facebook. We had a good crowd. There were 155 people, I think, at the theater, which was pretty good. So we were very, very pleased with the showing. Shelby, you have your hand up. Is there something you want to say?
Yeah, just a couple of things on that. The Cheyenne folks, the Laramie County folks have been doing a great job, Melody and Jane and Vanda, and they've generated a lot of flyers that can be modified, for things like Charlie versus Goliath or small handouts and things like that. So if you are in need of any kind of promotional materials besides the brochures that we've generated early on in the effort, let me know, and we will definitely share those newer one sheets and small little flyers with you, especially for things like Charlie versus Goliath or just contacting the team in your area for sure. I would also say just a couple of other things that came up in this, and it concerns Charlie versus Goliath. I'm in touch with Reed Lindsay, the filmmaker for Charlie versus Goliath. We're going to try to get some national press attention for Charlie versus Goliath as well as Wyoming Promise. There are and look for an email coming out in the next few weeks about this, but we may need you guys to step up and write an email to folks at the Young Turks, and they have a program on their network which is entirely online called Rebel Headquarters, and they've had filmmakers on with different films and also political candidates across the country. Their main issue is talking about money in politics. And so we're going to try to get some national recognition for Charlie versus Goliath as well as Wyoming Promise through that effort. That is mostly based, again, through the Young Turks Network online, but also Wolfpack. They're very aligned with Wolfpack, which Ken mentioned. He's going to the Unrig the System conference, and Wolfpack is one of the sponsors of that. And so just keep an eye out for an email that's going to come out soon in the next few weeks saying, hey, if we need folks in Wyoming to contact these folks so that we can get some national press attention, spark your ears up and just write a quick email because it'll make a huge difference. I definitely wanted to let you guys know about that upcoming thing. Other than that, the only other thing I wanted to say, I did want to ask Christy Garrett, who's on the call, if she has any questions. Our new team leader in Campbell County, if she has any questions or concerns or anything like that, I did want to give her a platform since many of you are seasoned at this point, even though you may not feel that way. If Christy Garrett, who is now unmuted, has any questions or concerns, feel free to chime in now.
Okay. Can you hear me? I'm not sure how this part works.
Yes,
I can hear you, Chris.
You can? Okay, great. My question to you guys was, a lot of our people who support this issue in Campbell County have signed the petition in Sheridan County. So what does that count for them? And they can't sign here, right? Is that correct?
If they signed it in Campbell County, they will be counted in. If they signed it in Sheridan County, they will be counted in Campbell County. We actually already have 45 signatures from Campbell County listed in our most recent report. There's no team until you just started out your team recently. We had no team in Campbell County. Those 45 signatures probably are the people you know who have signed it in Sheridan. So those signatures all count. They don't need to re-sign, but they are credited to Campbell County.
Awesome. Okay. Well,
you're welcome. Thank you so much, Christy, for joining the team. We look forward to working with you and supporting you. And if there's anything you need from us, you know how to contact both me and Shelby. And we do these phone calls about once a month for the county team leaders, and we'll be happy to share anything we have to help you out.
Well, thank you very much for your support, and I hope I can make you proud.
I'm sure you will. We're excited to be working with you.
Okay.
I had one more. Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything to say except thank you.
Okay, thank you. I had one more person I want to call on, and that's Greg Haas up in Buffalo. You joined the call, Greg. I know that we're working on getting the movie up to you on February 17th, I think. Is it the 16th and 17th, or how's planning going for the showing up in Buffalo in a couple of weeks? You're unmuted, Greg.
I just took my phone off mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Great. I sent the advertisement to the local newspaper today. They're going to run it for 3 weeks, and I advertised the 16th and the 17th for the movie, a 1 p.m. show on Friday the 16th and a 7 p.m. show on Saturday the 17th. And that's a part of it's interwoven with other programming that we're doing. And that's going to be in a fairly small venue. I think it's 35, 40 seats. So it can't be a huge show, but it can certainly be a good teaser for people who hear about it and weren't able to see it. So hopefully there will be some bigger venues that will play it up here in Northeast Wyoming. So that's, I guess that's how that's going. I did join the call late. Is Lois on the call, and was she able to share other information about Johnson County?
No, she's not on the call, but I shared with the fact that Johnson County is now leading the pack. You guys are in first place in terms of progress goal. You guys are on top. You just passed Albany County. You're at 68.6% of goal, and Albany's at 66.1%. So you're leading the way, and Albany's got to catch up. And other counties can learn from you guys that it can be done. So congratulations to you guys for your great work up there in Johnson County.
Thank you. It is a little bit of a big fish, small pond kind of thing. However, and I have noticed a very similar pattern with circulators dropping off. I also noticed another, or sort of losing momentum, I guess is maybe a better way to put it. I also noticed another interesting thing is some people are interested in only turning in the petition when they've got it complete. And they take some degree of convincing to let me grab a photograph of what they've got so far. And so that's an interesting twist that I didn't expect from folks. So that there was a couple of circulators that needed extra coaxing,
right.
And some we didn't want to push them because they were so close to being finished anyway. With that one petition, I have a question, if I might ask, about getting feedback to you guys from circulators, and if that might be a good method to, soliciting feedback from circulators and using that not only as information but also as a method of sort of reinvigorating them. Does that make sense? It's an idea that came to me this morning, and I was wondering if that's something that is possible and what information from them might be useful for you guys. Okay,
we do have we have two different kinds of phone calls that we do. We alternate them. 1 week we'll do a team leader call, and then 2 weeks later we might do a circulator call. And at the next circulator call, we're working on getting a couple of our top circulators from Albany County to join the call and give a quick update as to how they do it and what was working for them, and kind of give us a pep talk, because we have a couple of circulators in Albany County who have gotten 1,000 signatures themselves, and we want to have them share their success stories, and that's something that we hope to have in a future phone call. I see Manda has her hand raised. Manda, you are unmuted. What is your input, Manda?
was thinking about the fact that we also have a survey sent out to people to ask for things that they could possibly do to like find another circulator, like ask one of their friends to help join in the cause, and write a letter to your representatives, which has also been voiced a couple times now, but I just want to reiterate that as a thing that individual circulators could totally be doing. Maybe you could gather people together and have a writing party. I've, like, during certain political times, I've participated in postcard writing sessions where you just have the materials already there for people to write the letters easily and get them sent in to people if we had them already pre-addressed, or if we had the address really readily available to people, and just made it a social event. I think that would be something that would be helpful on a number of levels, including the motivation and getting to know people and starting that team that has also been emphasized before, that people are looking for that kind of camaraderie to get through the work that is involved in doing something like this, and the sometimes daunting prospect of trying to get all of these signatures and get the awareness going and make sure that people are fully aware of the implications of what we're doing and the gravity that this has. So there's also like media content, but specifically I think doing something where you either have a meeting to just update people and ask questions and get input on things that have been successful for them, or having those kinds of concentrated events where you're writing a letter, or you're looking to watch something like the 60-minute opium thing that has also been raised. That sounds like an interesting thing that would be good for people to get to know each other around and get to know the topic more.
So one thing we can do is when we have our next all-volunteer call, which will probably be about 2 weeks from now, if you can encourage all your circulators to join the call, that would be fantastic, and we can talk about some of those strategies. I also want to point out, Greg, that some of the phenomenon you identified of circulators not getting their partially completed things to us to look at is why we probably are well over the 18% that is now showing up. We have 18% in our computer, but on our pieces of paper out in the field, we probably have a lot more than that. We just don't know how many more. And then we're a little over an hour, so thank you all. Shelby has his hand up. So Shelby, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just a last thing. Ken and I are going to be talking with Ben Gubitz at American Promise about a quick spreadsheet that circulators can fill out and express their concerns as they collect signatures. So we're going to get that. We're going to look at that and see if we can get that integrated into this process, not just something that goes to the data managers, but something that's integrated on a really quick basis. That's one thing. The other thing I would say is just to follow up, if we have over 250 circulators, not all of them are still active, but if we can double that, if we can get to 500, we will get this done. So please, everybody, ask your volunteers if they can get one more person each active in this process. We won't fail. So that should also be something everybody can do. Educate somebody else about this, and get somebody else active if you can. That was all.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your attention. We've been here about an hour now, so I know that you all have important things you need to get to. I really do appreciate everybody's work, everybody's efforts. We're making progress, and I have no doubt that we will succeed because all the hard work that all of you are doing for us, we really, really appreciate it, and stay in touch. We're going to continue doing our educational stuff for another month or so, and then really crank into high gear starting mid-March, early April, get out on the streets, and we're going to get the rest of our signatures. Thank you all so much for attending, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you all. Wyoming heroes.
You are currently the only person in this